Hello and welcome to A Lonely Critic. My name is Anthony Renteria, and today is the first episode of our Alfred Hitchcock film club. First film that is widely available is The Pleasure Garden, which I just finished watching a couple minutes ago. So these are my immediate reactions, impressions of The Pleasure Garden, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. This movie was filmed in 1925, but I literally just found out that it wasn't actually released to the public till 1927 after The Mountain Eagle and after The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog. So we're already screwed up. It's already screwed up. Because I was supposed to go by release date, not film date, But it's okay. I had to do some digging to figure that information out, so it's alright. But anyways, The Pleasure Garden is the earliest film that is widely available that I've found. Everything else looks like it was lost or destroyed or just doesn't exist on the interwebs. So if I'm wrong, please let me know and let me know where I can find it. But yeah, so The Pleasure Garden is based off a novel, I guess, of the same name. I never read that novel or know anything about the novel. And then just to get into some credits, Oliver Sandys and Elliot Stannard are the writers. Music is by Lee Irwin and cinematography by Gaetano di Ventimiglia. I tried. And then starring Virginia Valley as Patsy, Carmelita Garatti as Jill, Miles Mander as Levitt, and John Stewart as Hugh Fielding. So that's a brief credit description. So let's just jump right into the movie. So how was it as my first Hitchcock experience? It was interesting because it was more than that. It was my first time watching a silent film, and that was an interesting experience because immediately I was like, oh man, this is going to be rough. Is this going to hold my attention? Am I going to fidget around? Weirdly, it was pretty awesome. Reminds me of how some people who don't like watching black and white films, or they don't like watching foreign films because it's subtitles. That first 15 minutes is weird and awkward, but then after you get over that hump, you're just in the movie. So what happened here was I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be rough. There's no dialogue. What am I gonna do? And then within 15 minutes, it was just a normal film, and I was implying everything that the characters were saying. Because there's many parts where in this film you don't really get the dialogue cards for every conversation. For some reason I thought you did, and I don't know if this is just a time period of this film or if it's Hitchcock's personal thing or if this is the norm, but the majority of all the conversations that I was seeing didn't actually get all the dialogue for because it was basic and it's implied what they're saying. Some people are arguing, you don't have to show a dialogue of them arguing because it's implied by their physical acting and other representations inside the film, so you don't need it. And then even the dialogue they did show is very minimal and slim. It would just be a sentence or two, and I don't know, it was interesting. I think it would be a really interesting filmmaking challenge if you were to try to make a silent film right now. I know a lot of people do that, but I don't know, I don't think they do it right. I've seen a lot of it at film festivals that I've participated in where the challenge is a silent film, and I feel like people just do the cards, they overdo the card. But if you actually watch a silent film, there is an immense amount of craft that's actually going into the piece, and it's I can already tell the amount of thought that needs to go into every frame because you have to say so much without saying anything. And I think that's an aspect that a lot of people who do film competitions, they just oh well, it's silent, we just don't talk, and then that's it. But you have to kind of rewire your brain because it's a whole different form of filmmaking at that point. I think it's when you're shooting in black and white, it's not just as easy as, well, I just make it black and white and that's the film. There's so many aspects you have to think within that. So maybe one day I could try that. The other thing that was interesting to me that I didn't know was the music. The score that was composed by Lee Irwin. It was awesome, and it was really cool because the score is ever present, almost the entire film has this soundtrack behind it. And that's another thing that I wasn't expecting, that I've never experienced before, is a score from beginning to end of a film. They didn't even sound like individual pieces, it was just the score, and it flowed. And it reminds me of the movie Dunkirk. I remember watching a bunch of interviews with Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, and apparently they tackled that film in a similar fashion where they thought of it almost as a silent film. And one of the early thoughts that I think Hans Zimmer and Nolan had together were making the entire score one piece of music, and that the film would start and the music would start and it would never stop. And I think for whatever reason they ended up scrapping that idea. It's interesting, and just me having watched this silent film makes me really want to do that one day. Have a film where it's the composition of music starts and then it ends with the film and it being one elongated piece of music, because it did a lot. like his work in this film, I thought it was pretty great, and it drove all the emotions. And then like in this scenario where it's a silent film, the music is the thing that's talking to you, and that was really cool experiencing for the first time. But alright, that's a lot of the technical stuff. I'm supposed to do the technical stuff after the actual talk about the film, but you know, I got flip-flopped. It's obviously a very old film, 1925. I thought the story was okay. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, it was surprisingly a decent film. Like, I actually enjoyed my experience watching it, which was very surprising. I was anticipating or going into this thing like thinking maybe it'd be like a 0 out of 10 or something crazy. Officially the oldest film I've ever seen in my life, so it's like I was expecting the worst. It was actually enjoyable, and I'm not sure if that's just because I have a fascination with the craft of filmmaking, that maybe it was enjoyable for me seeing the framing, the compositions, the lighting techniques, seeing the tinting that they use for the colors. Like, they would go to blue tint, orange tint, green tint, and that was like highlighting the emotional narrative arc of the whole piece as well. I was actually enjoying the performances more than I thought, seeing how they were almost overacting, but then it was still like really neat and cool. The score, obviously, I really like. And then the like shot design from the cinematographer. And see, like, I don't know in this time period, like, is the cinematographer just doing lighting, or are they composing shots, or like, how has the crafts evolved? If there's any film historians watching this, you can let me know. Oh, and then, yeah, if anyone has any like cool trivia or interesting information about this film or this time period of Hitchcock's life, you can leave them below, and then maybe I can talk about them in the next video, or we can just have a discussion down there about that, because that would be really cool. I couldn't really find a lot of information about this. Supposedly Hitchcock like married a woman in the middle of this film or something. I'm not sure how many wives he had. I'm just assuming he's had multiple wives, because that was probably the norm in this time period. And I don't know, I don't really know anything about Hitchcock's personal life. Maybe at the end of this long film journey we can talk about his life and, you know, recap everything. But right now I just want to focus on the films, at least for me, because I'm dumb. So, the actual narrative. So it's like, and I'm not going to go into any like deep spoilers. Not that I think there's like much to spoil in this film. Besides the ending. The ending was pretty awesome, and it like kind of showed me what I assume is going to be like Hitchcock's stick, at least that I know of. The basic narrative is just this two actresses who are working in like theater, stage plays. I'm not sure what kind of productions they're in, but it seems like musical and dance. Two working actresses. One, you know, is obviously a more prominent, successful one, and the other one is more of like supporting role kind of actress, just in the like troupe or whatever. And then there's two gentlemen who are like kind of the romantic interest of these two women. And then obviously, you know, one of the women who's successful, you know, goes down that kind of route of being like fame and money changing your life and stuff like that. So, you know, it has like those threads of like success and fame and money, and then also it's a very simple romantic, kind of like a love triangles kind of thing going on. I did like the narrative just generally. I like how it kind of built to like a little climax at the end. Like, and everything is super obvious. Like, from the beginning, from like the first frame that you see all the characters in, you know exactly what's going to happen, and you know exactly like who's going to end up with who and what's going to happen where. But it was still interesting seeing it visualized. Like, there's a lot of interesting visual ideas that Hitchcock's pulling off in this very early work. And just to think, I think it's like, I don't know, it's hard to like find what his filmography was like. Like, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So he shot maybe 15 things before this film that are completely lost. Just from the information I'm gathering, he started his career in like the 1920s. So he had about 5 years in under his belt before this came out. He has his thing down to a degree when it comes to this, to his filmmaking style, I assume. But still, there was just a lot of interesting ideas. There's some like wonderful compositions of people's like side profiles. I don't know if he has a thing for side profiles, but there was like 3 shots. I think it was like men in side profiles that are really awesome. The editing was fantastic too. Like, there was one shot specifically where it's like one of the women, she's doing like this, like waving goodbye or whatever. And then the way he like cross faded that into another woman's hand that was saying hello, that's pretty fucking awesome. Like, that's insane that he because you got to think also, like, back in the day with film, like, that was, you know, to do a crossfade, you're slapping film pieces together. I mean, you're cutting a film reel, you know. So just all editing, you know, before it switched to digital editing is like insane to me. Like, just to think logically. I remember I watched like a documentary about film, and I think it was Martin Scorsese's editor, which I'm blanking on her name. Ah, damn, I'm gonna have to look it up. Thelma Colbert Schoonmaker. So I remember watching a documentary where she was talking about editing film, and she like had her big machine and how she was like cutting it and like splicing it together. And I just imagine like the amount of time that it would take to make a cut, and then imagine screwing that cut up or undoing the cut or thinking about doing a dissolve or a fade or cut to white or cut to black. It's just mind numbing to think, you know, what I can do in like Adobe Premiere in like literally 2 clicks. 1 click was a physical action, and I think that would totally change the way you thought about editing and the process that you would develop. So it's especially fascinating to see them pull off editing techniques that I think are wonderful and still used today and beautiful. And then they're all tied to like a narrative and an emotional thing. Like that hand waving thing is like, it gave me like a little emotional impact because I was like, oh, you try not to cuss. So like, oh, you dirtbag dude. And then there was a couple other shots that I'm just not remembering right now. Oh, there was another shot where there's a character who dies at some point in the story, and then she comes back almost like a ghost, and it was this cool like layering of I imagine that image over the current image, and how he pulled that off was very interesting, and how he had like little hints and nods to it through the set design and through like sheets and covers and stuff like that. So that was all awesome. So it was just a really nice silent film. I don't know what is considered like the best silent film of all time. Like I assume it's like one of those hugely like Metropolis or something, you know, like one of those crazy epic gargantuan feats. But I think this was a nice little entry point because it's just a simple romantic drama. I think if you want to give silent films a try, this would not be a bad start. I'm assuming the next couple of films we're going to watch from him are also silent. I'm not too sure, but like The Mountain Eagle, The Lodger, Downhill, Easy Virtue, and then The Ring. I'm not sure when sound came on board in film. Again, I am not well versed in film history. I'm just trying to watch some Hitchcock films, okay? But yeah, if anyone does know and wants to like just link some stuff or whatever, go ahead and do that. That'd be awesome. But yeah, so that is The Pleasure Garden. I think, what would I rate it out of 10? Just an immediate rating. I think I would give it a 6 out of 10 because I think it was all right. I would give it a 6 out of 10, and that's like a 6 out of 10 comparatively to modern day films. So like, I'm trying to think of what I gave a 5 out of 10 in 2021. But yeah, this was better than that. Especially the ending. I think the ending is the highlight of the film, and I am super psyched to see Hitchcock go full Hitchcock on us, because that would be super awesome, because the ending was the best part. And it was really interesting seeing how he like staged and choreographed and held suspense during the ending. I could already tell like that's gonna be his stick. So I'm gonna end this now because I'm already at 20 minutes. So that is my immediate impressions and review of The Pleasure Garden for our Alfred Hitchcock Club. Thank you so much. If you watched it, let me know your thoughts below. Didn't watch it, I would recommend it. It is a 6 out of 10, but it is only like a 70-minute watch, which is super short. Super weird seeing something that's less than 3 freaking hours, because that feels like every damn film now is 3 hours long, and that's just ridiculous. I thought it was a great time, and I hope you can join me in this Hitchcock journey. Let me know if there's any like films that you're specifically excited for me to watch on this Hitchcock. Yeah, so thank you so much. Like and subscribe if you like my takes on this, and follow all my other stuff. I should be having more reviews coming. And then next week we are going to watch The Mountain Eagle 1926. So that's going to be exciting. And yeah, let's get this ball rolling. And thank y'all so much.